J.D. Souther lived with Glenn Frey in a little apartment in Echo Park when Linda Ronstadt first met him at the Troubadour. There, Glenn and J.D. started to develop their musical relationship and formed the band Long Branch Pennywhistle. Jackson Browne resided just below them. Most mornings started with Glenn and J.D. being awakened by the teapot's shrill whistle, which quickly led to Jackson at the piano repeatedly performing the same tune. Glenn Frey observed how Jackson composed, repeatedly playing the same chorus and verse until it felt perfect. While Glenn and J.D. spent as much time as possible at the Troubadour, where a large portion of their education was shaped, Glenn was learning everything he could about the music-making process. After recording their debut album, they are performing live throughout Los Angeles, but it is a failure. After splitting up, Glenn Frey and J.D. Souther were at a crossroads when Frey was presented with a new chance. The Eagles, his future songwriting collaborator, and a tense moment in a London studio where he made the biting statement, "You're not a rock and roll band," were all the results of that turn of events. The Who are a band that plays rock and roll. You're not that either. It's an incredible voyage that starts in Southern California, where country rock is becoming popular. Glenn Frey came to mind when Linda Ronstadt wanted a backup band to accompany her on her East Coast tour, and she encouraged him to join. Soon after, Linda notices the drummer singing in the band Shiloh as they are performing at the Troubadour. Unbeknownst to her at the moment, Linda Ronstadt had just happened upon the earliest stages of one of the most recognizable bands in music history. It's important to note that Linda is not just an amazing vocalist, but also a song stylist who has a talent for finding a wonderful tune and making it into something amazing. She also enlisted all 4 of the Eagles' original members for her backup band at various points in time, which helped turn them into legends, just like she did with so many songs that have become ingrained in American culture. That in and of itself demonstrates her talent and level of intuition regarding music. However, she will continue to contribute in unexpected ways to the Eagles' success. Before long, they are traveling to a place where Glenn Frey and Don Henley are rooming together and becoming friends. Both guys grew up in working-class households. Glenn is from Detroit, where his mother makes pies for GM, and his father works in an auto factory. At the age of 16, Glenn even encounters Bob Seger, who later serves as his mentor and allows him to reprise his role as singer on Ramblin' Gambin' Man. However, Glenn's early rock endeavors are put on hold when his mother discovers him smoking marijuana in the basement. She even calls Seeger's manager to inform him that Glenn will not be returning. Don Henley is a native of Linden, Texas, where his father works in the automotive sector and saves his extra cash for Don's college education. They purchase U.S. savings bonds for his college fund every week using their savings. Don will spend more than 3 years studying English, which will be extremely beneficial as it will provide the groundwork for the rich lyrical content that characterized his compositions. Like Glenn, Don also makes friends with a well-known local artist, Kenny Rogers and the First Edition. Kenny takes him under his wing, introduces him to Los Angeles and his band Shiloh, and prepares the way for Linda Ronstadt to discover them at the Troubadour. It didn't take long for Glenn and Don to decide to start their own band after realizing how compatible their musical tastes and comparable histories were, and they quickly went to Linda to tell her. Linda's graciousness in this situation is a true testament to her character. Her professionalism is demonstrated by the fact that she supported them and did not take offense. She also gives them advice on who they should have in their group, including 2 of her other backup band members, bassist Randy Meisner, formerly of Poco, and guitarist Bernie Leadon, previously of the Flying Burrito Brothers. The Eagles lineup is complete with that. J.D. and Linda are now living together in Laurel Canyon, where he starts. penning hit songs that she records, such faithless love. He would write amazing songs that Linda would perform as a result of the relationship's tensions. In their early days, Glenn and Don would come to practice at Linda and JD's house because they had nowhere else to go, and because the space was so limited, Linda and JD would leave and go out. With their roots in the Midwest and Texas, Glenn and Don would start combining their cultures to change country rock by incorporating American idioms and images into their songs. One of their earliest performances is at an art gallery opening, when their Laurel Canyon equivalents, including Mama Cass, Joni Mitchell, and Jackson Browne, are present. Witchy Woman, one of the few songs they had written at the time, was played repeatedly throughout the evening, and each time everyone stood up and danced in support. Soon after, David Geffen's firm, Asylum Records, contracted the Eagles and sent them to Aspen, Colorado, to write some songs for recording. The renowned English producer Glyn Johns, who was first unimpressed by what he heard, was brought on board to produce them. They had a lot to live up to because he created iconic bands like Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, and the Beatles. He passed away after their first encounter, but he returned to hear them perform in rehearsal and was prepared to turn them down once more until he happened to catch them harmonizing. On Glyn Johns' native turf, they traveled to London to record their debut album. They were unprepared, though, for the degree of discipline that Johns was imposing on them when they arrived. He establishes stringent guidelines, such as no drugs or alcohol, and he demands that things be done his way. 3 top 40 songs were released from their self-titled first album, which was a huge hit when it was released on June 1, 1972. Written by Jackson Browne and Glenn Frey, Take It Easy served as the first single and lead single. Browne was stuck after writing the song's first verse. Browne continued to finish the song after Frey finished the verse. The bluesy, Witchy Woman followed the song, which peaked at number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100. Bernie composed the melody, while Don wrote the words, and the gentle country rock ballad, Peaceful Easy Feeling, captured the laid-back vibe that was central to the Eagles' early style. The Eagles are doing very well after their debut record was a big success. Soon after, Don Henley takes over Roger McGuinn of the Byrds' old house in Laurel Canyon. During this time, Glenn and Don start writing music together. Tequila Sunrise is the first song they co-wrote. They come up with a concept album idea around this time that is inspired by outlaws like the Dalton Gang. At first, the record didn't go as well as their debut. That is, until Desperado is recorded by their longtime friend Linda Ronstadt, a legitimate country rock singer today. The Eagles' rendition of the song experiences a resurgence of interest after Linda's rendition is played on the radio, and it ultimately becomes one of their all-time favorite songs. Linda and J.D. Souther end their relationship after a few hits. I played the Dutch housewife, scrubbing and applying layers of wax to the floors, she says, recalling their time together. I practiced my guitar parts to new tunes I enjoyed as I waited for the wax to solidify. I had learnt the song by the time the floor was shining. J.D. moved into a new house a few streets away, but Linda and him remained friends and continued to play music together even though their personal relationship was ending. J.D. will later work with the Eagles, contributing to the writing of some of their greatest songs, such as Heartache Tonight, New Kid in Town, and Best of My Love. The Eagles are eager to create a heavier rock sound for their upcoming third album. Due to growing disagreements with producer Glyn Johns, Glenn Frey started to assume the artistic lead. You're not a rock and roll band, Johns yelled at one point. The Who are a band that plays rock and roll. You're not that either. 2 Americans from the working class, who weren't going to be taught what rock and roll was meant to be, didn't like that twist of the knife, covered in bourgeois English veneer. Soon, Bill Shimchick, an American producer for Joe Walsh, will replace John's. He assists them in elevating their sound to a more edgy rock sound, which is exactly where they want it to be. After departing London, they complete the album in Los Angeles. They then proceed to finish on the border, including songs like Already Gone. The Eagles' best single released to date, according to Cashbox, is a hard rocker driven by the group's incredible harmonies. But the album's biggest hit, Best of My Love, was first finished in London. Shimchick, however, later remixed it. Don Henley, Glenn Frey, and J.D. Souther wrote Best of My Love. Glenn Frey recalled, "One afternoon in Laurel Canyon, I was playing an acoustic guitar and was attempting to work out a tuning that Joni Mitchell had demonstrated to me a few days prior. I lost my way and ended up playing the guitar part for the song that would eventually become The Best of My Love." Henley claims that she wrote the majority of the song's lyrics in a booth at Dan Tana's restaurant, which is near the Troubadour. Henley's breakup with his then-girlfriend served as some inspiration for the lyrics. The song would go on to become the band's most popular single to date, earning them their first #1 single in the United States. In June 1975, the Eagles' fourth studio album, One of These Nights, was released. It was the first of 4 straight #1 albums for the Eagles, and it was a breakthrough album that made them worldwide superstars. Glenn and Don wrote the song, One of These Nights, in an effort to steer clear of country rock ballads. Frey wrote the following about the song in the liner notes of the very best of We Had. Don Henley's voice, which allowed us to go in a more soulful direction, which made me exceedingly happy. We took a huge step forward with One of These Nights. The song was a breakthrough hit. My favorite Eagles record is this one. In the event that I had to choose only one, it wouldn't be Hotel California or Take It Easy. It would have to be One of These Nights. Randy Meisner, Don Henley, and Glenn Frey wrote the song, Take It to the Limit, which Meisner originally wrote as a solo. Henley and Frey helped Meisner finish it as it was still unfinished when the One of These Nights album was ready to be recorded. Don Henley, Glenn Frey, and J.D. Souther wrote the Eagles' third #1 smash single, New Kid in Town, which was released with their 5th album in December 1976. Next up is the title track, Hotel California, which is the 2nd single. The Eagles will make it their hallmark song, and its message will become more ingrained in folklore than almost any other song in contemporary music.